can I get you, Patrick, to react to this latest news? We hear from the Russian Civil Aviation Authority that Yevgeny Prigozhin is confirmed dead and was an occupant on that flight that crashed north of Moscow.
Well, it's a little dark, but there's an old saying among Russian watchers that if you have a falling out with Vladimir Putin, don't stand next to any windows. Given the habit of defenestration among those that were critical or had a falling out with Putin to fall out of a window, and it's not at all a surprise to many that Prigozhin should find this untimely demise. Of course, no one has taken any sort of credit for it, and right now the Russian state is claiming that it's an accident. It's just a highly unlikely to simply be that, given what occurred earlier this summer. In terms of what this means now, both for the Wagner Group, for the Ukrainian war, and for Russia, you have been seeing an effort to mold and fold those Wagner forces into the regular Russian military after the kind of mini coup or baby coup attempt earlier in the summer, but they are very different from the regularized Russian forces. These are largely hardened convicts. They're incredibly brutal. Many of the regular Russian military forces are conscripts that are 19 years old. So it's not been an easy job trying to put them even in barracks together, much less fight together. But what this does show, what Prigozhin's whole kind of like life and this adventure does show, is the rise of paramilitary forces, and I think that that's something that's going to stay. I think that trend does not go away with his death. These forces, the Wagner Group in general, incredibly useful for the Kremlin in terms of staging operations, but having plausible deniability to say, hey, it wasn't the Kremlin, it was this extra military force, or it was no one at all that we know. And also very useful in terms of currying good favor among autocracies from Africa to Venezuela and obviously to Syria and beyond. You're seeing now different Russian governors seeking to build their own paramilitary forces, even Rosneft, the gas interest.
Yeah, so other groups, potentially similar to Wagner, would not be deterred by this if Vladimir Putin, and we may never know, I have to say, but of course people are making the link from the falling out between the pair, the fact that Putin was potentially vulnerable with Yevgeny Prigozhin of the Wagner mercenary group still around, him having of course attempted a coup on Moscow a few months ago, that put Putin in a very vulnerable position, and people were saying at the time that Prigozhin had signed a death warrant. They were urging caution, and you began with that quote about not standing too close to a window, and we might have jested slightly about that at the time. But here is someone who it is being reported has met their end. What does this mean about a reaction from the Wagner Group? Will we get one? Are they a strong enough force? And we should also confirm, by the way, that the Russian Civil Aviation Authority are saying that the Wagner commander, Dmitry Utkin, a senior commander of the Wagner Group, also on board that plane, also then dead. What does this mean about a reaction from the Wagner Group, Patrick Tucker?
Well, I don't think that you're going to be able to move a lot of them into the Russian MOD very, very quickly. This is essentially a decapitation, is what one intelligence analyst I just spoke to basically said. Yes, I think that in some ways this is obviously a move to marginalize them and make them essentially a useless organization and appropriate them. But in terms of the way paramilitary and private military organizations like this group emerge in the future, you will see the Russian government continue to use them. I think that you will see the Kremlin attempt to exert a lot more control over them, to be much more embedded in how they develop, rather than just sort of let them evolve on their own. And so you see their utility as well for the Russian government, and that's only been demonstrated. And importantly, Prigozhin did stage a coup, but it wasn't actually against Vladimir Putin. It was against the Ministry of Defense and his nemesis, the Defense Minister Shoigu and the Chief of Staff Valery Gerasimov. So this really was about personalities in deep conflict within the Russian state. Both of them, both Shoigu, Gerasimov, and Prigozhin, all thinking they had the favor of Vladimir Putin in their actions. And of course, Prigozhin being proven quite wrong. And I think that's today's events certainly punctuate that, kind of no matter how they turn out.
Yeah. Look, there has been a bit of speculation, and I just wonder from your sources whether you can confirm anything or even have a look at the most likely point. We know that the plane crashed, okay, killing everyone on board. That is what Russia has said. We don't know how it came down, though, do we? So really early reports said it had been shot down, that a missile had been aimed at it. But we don't know, do we, how the plane came down? Or do you have a more than likely theory about that?
Oh, I'm watching the same intelligence you are. Those reports of the shootdown come primarily from Wagner-affiliated Telegram channels, and the photo footage that they have is very compelling. We'll wait to see if the U.S. intelligence community puts something out in terms of their assessment. I don't have anything right now, but given the circumstances and just given the pattern of what happens to people that embarrass, humiliate, or alienate Vladimir Putin, a mere coincidence just seems incredibly unlikely. But of course, you can't rule that out. It's always